Hi, and welcome to today's episode, Vows. Now, we've made it on a separate episode because it's very important. Now, what is the importance of vows? If you were to watch videos that has that heart feels to it, it's something that would that would attract you, how romantic it is. It's this guy. Okay, vows, ironically speaking, does not really have to mean promises. It could be something that you guys as a couple stand for. It's something that when people hear would make them feel connected to you. It's something that could be a reason why you guys are doing your ceremony right now. That's the importance of vows. In terms of the SDE, vows is something that makes your video become more unique. The more interesting your vows becomes, the more unique it becomes to you. And so some of the experiences are not common with everybody else. That's why vows is really important. There are couples who have vows, and there are couples who don't. But what makes them stand out is that the more things that you have in your SDE, the more personal it gets. It just gives you that additional value to your video that makes people want to get married too. And so it is also important that you make sure that when they do their vows, it's well recorded. In Maya, we usually use Sennheisers, the G3s, and the Rode Link to use as our transmitter and receivers. And so the setup is, remember that we have 3 shooters. And the traditional shooter needs to have that line in so that the mic has a direct feed to the camera. So we have one transmitter that's being set up in the mixer from the church or from any supplier where the ceremony is. And then we have 2 receivers, one connecting to the main cam or the traditional shooter, and the other receiver connecting to the H1, which has a separate recorder. And so, to make sure that things are even safer, we have another H1 that has a microphone in it that's directly connected to the speakers. But don't forget the reaction shooter. Reaction shooter, he needs to have a separate microphone on top of his camera just to make sure that if there are people clapping, you still get that authentic clapping sound straight from the people itself. You need to have your micro SDs for your line in. Sometimes if you have the H1, make sure that your device has that micro SD before you start recording. Okay? Now we move on to the positioning of vows if ever it allows you to. Like for inside the church, inside the hotel. Now remember, this is the aisle, and so your priest and the groom and the bride is somewhere in the middle, and your reaction shooter is on the right or on the left, corresponding to the traditional shooter. This way, they can get tight shots of the faces of the bride and the groom. Creative shooter is the one who rotates from one place to another to make sure he is able to get reactions from different people. Now, the trick here is this reaction shooter and the traditional shooter needs to follow the 180-degree rule. If you were to look at the top view of the setup, just imagine your 2 shooters is on the left and on the right. The couple is in the middle, and they're getting the faces of the couple. Your shooters are getting the faces of the couple. Now, top view, draw a straight line, and then depends on where your initial shooter is. The corresponding shooter, the reaction shooter, should be on the same area, the 180 area where your corresponding shooter is. To give you a better example, just imagine that this is a circle. This is the diameter. Okay. Your groom, your couple, should be on the other side of the circle. And you guys, as a shooter, should be on the other side. And so, what happens is, this is the 180-degree rule. For instance, if there is something that's blocking your way, and you need to adjust, that also applies to your other shooter, the reaction shooter. If the TS needs to move from because he is being blocked, then the RS needs to move as well. That's called the 180-degree rule. Now, considering if there is something blocking here to the view of the TS with the groom, he needs to move to the other side. And so, if he moves, the corresponding shooter for the bride side needs to move as well. If you don't do this, imagine how it's going to look like in the video. Imagine if the groom is facing the left and your other shooter is shooting the bride and doesn't move. Both of them are facing left. So, that looks like they're not talking to each other. It looks like they're beside one another and facing a person instead of them looking at one another. That's the 180-degree rule. Now, additional tips for vows. Try and avoid getting too close when getting reactions of people. When couples are doing their vows, it's not forever. So when you're the creative shooter and you need to get reactions of people, imagine how long it would take. Usually what I do is when the groom does his vows, I go to one side of the aisle. And when the bride does her vows, I go to the other side, just to make sure that I get from each. Also remember that you're using batteries. It's very important, especially for your line-in, for your Sennheisers and RodeLink. It's important that you assess how long it would take for those batteries to drain. Because if it catches you, like you're in the middle of the vows and the battery goes off, you're going to be in very big trouble. With regards to using the RodeLink, it's Wi-Fi based. The farther the distance you are from your receiver, the lower the quality could get compared to having a Sennheiser. Sometimes the cables that you use create static in them that you can hear the hiss when you have your earphones with your receiver. And so it's better to know them ahead of time so that you could change the cables, or not, maybe there's problems with it that you could still address before the ceremony starts. Sometimes there are also hiss from the mixer, and you could change that or you could improve that by increasing the sensitivity, making sure that you're not really hearing the hiss, although the audio is low, but you could still manage to put it up when you do it on post. Ways to have vows. You can sometimes get vows from the church, but if the church doesn't allow you, you could always do vows from the beginning. You could always record the vows if the couple wants you to. Have a voiceover. It doesn't really have to show their faces, but you could always do that. You could do indoor interviews, and so the question is, how do you make it come out of them? How do you make vows that are worth listening? And sometimes you just need to be aware. You need to make sure that your couple is aware that when they do vows, it's not all about promises. It's why you guys have been together for quite a long time. It's why you want to wake up in the morning. What's the reason why you guys are having the ceremony right now? These are the reasons that when you look back, when they look back, they would realize how much they love one another. And when people hear it, they'd feel very, very much connected to you. That's where you see tears. That's where you see emotional things come out from not just the couple, but from the guests as well. So when the church does not allow you, or when the couple prefers to have an interview, like for a recording of their vows, what are the proper lighting for and audio setup for that? You could always choose to have a good location where it doesn't echo and the lighting is good naturally. Or if the lighting is not good, have some LEDs ready. You could always have different styles like backlighting, side light. Make use of the reflectors that could make your subject pop out from the background if the background does not look that good. Okay? You could always use prime lenses to make sure that they look really good, but avoid making them move forward and back because it's going to blur them out. And so for today, we were able to realize how important vows are. How to get them right, how to set up the audio, how to do the lighting for the indoor, how to get the heart from the vows from the couple to make it more emotionally appealing and very personal. And I hope you could be able to apply it to your next weddings. I'll see you in the next chapter.
We are here. Finally. After all the strong forces tearing us apart, God allowed us to be together and be happy. There were so many times I wanted to give up, but you never did. So I thank you for that. I don't know what life will be like for us now. I don't know what lies ahead. I'm walking through this with a tight grip on your hand and a wholehearted faith that come what may, we have each other. That through this journey, our I do's today will be more relevant tomorrow.
We planned this wedding as a fulfillment of childhood dreams. I wanted you to get everything done the way you wanted it to be. Thank you for not being practical. It's not really very practical to love and give your life to another person, especially someone like me. Thank you for never letting go. I vow to love you as Christ continuously loves each and every one of us. Full, unceasing, willing. I vow to choose you, us, every day.
Baby 我们在一起10年，从2006年开始。10年前我记得我记得我的承诺我和你在一起我一定会很努力一定要给你幸福的生活所以不知道这个10年我的努力够不够但是我会继续努力我爱你
Daniel, from this day onwards, I pledge in honesty and in sincerity to be for you an obedient and faithful wife. I promise to create and support a family with you, in a household filled with laughter, patience, understanding, and love.
Life will always have no guarantees, and it will have its ups and downs. So today, as I take you as my wife, I promise to protect your innocence, as it makes you unique, to nurture your dreams, because through them you shine. I promise to be your partner in all things, not possessing you, but working with you as a part of a whole. I promise to be faithful and supportive, to always make our family's love and happiness my priority. I promise to never stop loving you, because you are and forever will be my life, my love, and my eternal happiness.